Welcome back. It's your girl, Coach Nick, National Board Certified Health Coach, and you are tuning into another beautifully well conversation. But let's get into this because, sometimes it's so easy to think that we're on this mission, right? This successful journey to health. We're exercising, we're aiming to be mindful about food, we're just living life, and then things happen. Well, it is Heart Month, and we have a special guest. I am honored and I'm privileged beyond belief, and you're going to find out just why throughout this conversation. It's not an interview, it's a conversation. This is Girl Talk, and we're just going to cut to the chase with this and learn a little bit more about Perisa, who has been kind enough to share her journey during Heart Month. As we get started, I always love these full circle moments because last year, how did we meet? Introduce yourself, tell us a fun fact about you, and then jump in with how did we even get to this conversation?
Well, first off, Nick, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I want to say how we met was I was on Facebook just scrolling about anything wellness, anything heart, and all of a sudden, I guess the algorithms came my way, and lo and behold, you were having I guess what was it, a wellness event? And
Yeah.
I found myself signing up for it. I registered for it and I came, and that's how we met. But lo and behold, I had a story to tell.
Isn't it? I'll tell you, this is one of those moments where we say Facebook did us a favor.
They did. They did, because I'm not a fan of the algorithms, but I can honestly say in this case, so much has come my way in, that realm of wellness, heart, women, positivity. So I will say kudos to Facebook.
Yeah. And you were looking specifically at this event because what caused the interest in this heart health event that we just happened to hold last year around this time with the support of the Kaiser mobile bus? But what led you to search for these heart related events?
Well, I had just found out that I had a heart attack, and I was in a state of shock for more reasons than one, because I personally thought that I was doing all the right things. And actually got told I was doing all the right things. But, I also got told if I wasn't doing all the right things, I might not have been here. And when I say all the right things, I was working out, I was running, doing everything that I thought I should be doing to not have something like that happen. And all of a sudden it did. And it led me to say, okay, I need to find, events that will educate me, maybe teach me a thing or two also. And your event stood out to me. I mean, I wanted to get educated about my blood pressure. I wanted to get educated about my BMI. And those things were at your event. So I'm very grateful.
That's amazing. It's how long had it been that you experienced the heart attack before the event?
I want to say it wasn't that long prior to that. And when everyone seen me and I told them that I had it, they were like, "Wait, you?" But at the same time, when I tell my friends that same story, they have the same reaction. "Wait, you?" And it got to a point, Nick, where I can honestly say I kind of got real quiet about it and started to stay in my shell, because when I post things on Facebook, I post positive things. I never like to really post anything bad.
Mm.
It's always running, or, look at this healthy dish that my husband made for me. It's always been things like that. And so I found myself even getting angry after I found out I had the heart attack. And I would, say little tidbits of can't believe this or that. And people would be like, what's wrong with you? I wouldn't even respond. And one of my friends finally hit me up on the Facebook Messenger. And she said, "You all right?" And I said, "Not really." I said, "I had a heart attack." She had the emoji eyes, the surprise emoji eyes. And
Yes.
she said, "You? Not you." And I said, "Yeah, me." And it was to the point, and I told her, I said, "See, this is the responses that I'm getting from a lot of people who I tell. So I really don't like to tell the story." And she said, "But wait, you must tell your story. You are
Absolutely.
obligated to tell your story." And I said, "Obligated?" She's like, "You most definitely are obligated to the next woman to tell your story."
All day.
And
Yeah.
and
That's
here I
that's
am.
amazing. Oh my goodness. In what you said, I have to go back because I want the listeners to really grab something out of this. Okay, you are doing the best you can, working out, hubby cooking some delicious, healthy meals. A heart attack happens. Everybody's surprised. How does this happen to you? I want to go back to that right there for a moment because you also said if it was not for the things that you did, you may not have survived.
Absolutely, yes. And the funny thing is, Nick, I didn't even know I had a heart attack. That's the weird part about it. And if I could, just shed some light on that, I've, always had acid reflux as I got older, and I truly thought that that's what was happening with me. That's what my cardiologist thought was happening with me because I do have a cardiologist. I do suffer from high blood pressure, which it's been maintained, but I have a cardiologist in place because they wanted me to always have one in place. So when I told him what was happening, he kind of brushed it to the side and he was like, "Oh, we ran tests on you back before. We found out that you had GERD." And I'm like, "GERD? So that's like a form of acid reflux." He's like, "Oh, that's probably what it is." So here I am thinking, okay, any type of burning sensation that I'm feeling, it's got to be acid reflux. And that's what I was walking around thinking I had. I was on my cycling bike and I started to have this pain. And of course, I'm Dr. Harrison, so I'm Googling
Right.
things.
Dr.
So,
Google.
yes, so I Googled pain in the chest while exercising. And all of these things came up, and I want to say it was angina, I want to say it was called. And that's what I said I had, that and acid reflux. Lo and behold, I'm taking all kind of acid reflux medicine, and nothing's really working. I'm walking my dog and I'm bent over now. And I'll never forget this incident. I'm walking my dog and she's pulling me because that's what she does. And I'm bending over and this lady stops her car and she looks at me and I'm saying to her, "Nothing to see here. It's acid reflux."
Wow. Wow. Dog walking. The dog is walking. No, you're not dog walking. The dog is walking you. And the GERD is girding, right? People see what's happening and they're concerned. But Perisa said, "No, ain't nothing happening here, honey. Keep it
Yes, because I
moving."
was like, "This is not me. I work out, I run. This is not happening to me." So I mean, I eventually said, "Okay, something's not right," because the symptoms started getting worse. I started vomiting nonstop, and I'm like, "Wow, this acid reflux is really
It's
kicking my
bad.
behind." Yes, and so I went to patient first, and I told them, "I think I got an acid reflux problem going on. It's really bad." And I told them I was having chest pains. They did an EKG. They said your EKG was a little abnormal, but we don't know what it was before. And they said we don't have anything to go by. And she said, "I think you probably need to go to the emergency room." So I did. I went to the emergency room. And again, Dr. Harrison, I'm telling them, I think this is a GERD attack. They, did workup on me, and they put me on a treadmill, a little mini stress test, EKG, the whole shebang. But they came back and said, yeah, we think it's acid reflux too. I even went and said, yeah, I started lifting weights a little bit more. I started lifting 15 pounds. My chest is starting to hurt. And they're like, yes, we think that might be skeletal. So I'm like, okay, acid reflux, lifting more weights, that's what this is. They sent me home. Lo and behold, still didn't feel any better. My husband finally stepped in. He said, I'm taking you to the doctor. You stop telling them what's wrong with you.
Yes.
You let them figure it out. And finally, they figured it out. And they said, we're going to get you in for a catheterization. And even then, they looked at my records because now we're at Sinai Hospital. They look at my records, and the doctor there said, well, yeah, I worked with a cardiologist. I'm looking at your medical records. We don't believe that this is anything maybe other than acid reflux still, GERD. He's like, I don't think I'm going to find any blockages. Lo and behold, when because I had to be awake for it, when he did the procedure, he was like, there it
Wow.
is. There it is. Now, me still being nervous and silly and stuff, I said, I hope it's not going to be something you put in me that's pork.
I cannot with you. Cannot.
But that's because I notice when I'm scared, I'll crack a joke,
Yes.
and when he actually told me that it was a 95% blockage, I still didn't understand what that meant. So, Nick, I will honestly say, up until I finally got another cardiologist, I didn't even know I had a heart attack. No one would tell me that. I guess they automatically assumed that I would know that. And they gave me a stent. They gave me all of this medication, but no one came in and said, Miss Harrison, you had a heart attack. No one said that. They just, sent me home and said I needed to follow up with my cardiologist.
Wow.
And right then and there, my husband was livid. And when I went to the cardiologist, I told him, I said, I had to get a stent. And I was told I needed to do cardiac rehab. Oh, you don't have to do cardiac rehab. You run, you work out, you're fine. Still didn't tell me I had a heart attack. And that's when my husband said, you know what? I think we need to get you a new cardiologist. So we started looking around for me a new cardiologist. And when I finally had an appointment with the new one, one of the first questions I asked him was, do I need to do cardiac rehab? He said, you most absolutely have to do cardiac rehab. Anytime someone has a heart attack, you have to do cardiac rehab. Again, me in denial. Wait a minute, who had a heart attack? He was like, Miss Harrison, you had a heart attack. I said, no one told me I had a heart attack. He was like, you most absolutely had a heart attack. I thought I was going to fall out the chair
Oh,
because I
yeah.
wanted to argue with this man. Because right then and there, that's when the shock took place. I was so shocked after going to patient first, after going to another hospital, after going to Sinai, after having the procedures done, after them thinking that it was still acid reflux because I told them that and they didn't want to do anything else. Finally, until I was bent over, I didn't know I had a heart attack.
Oh, we got to backtrack on this one because I have to thank you so much for sharing your story with so many details because I will tell you, there are things happening throughout this process that I know will wake up even more conversations. From the symptoms that appear to be GERD, acid reflux, to this thought process. And I want us to, we got to dig into this. We're going to have another conversation because how do doctors let us become the doctor? Even so, in my head, even if I think that what I have is what's happening, why does the treatment plan reflect what the patient has said?
Yeah.
Okay, that is a problem.
Yes.
And if we are allowing ourselves to let these doctors have the authority over our care, and I'm not saying they're perfect, so I know this podcast is going to reach some of my healthcare buddies. I hope that my buddies would not allow women like us to experience what Perisa has had to experience. But her experience tells us we got to backtrack. I'm diagnosing myself. I'm telling you what I believe this to be based on what you diagnosed me with. I'm going to patient first. I'm going to the ER. I have a cardiologist. I have a stent placed. And throughout this whole process, it is not until you dig deep enough to find a cardiologist who is willing to listen, who is willing to go the extra mile, who actually puts a name to what you've been experiencing. At 95% blockage, for those of us that may not be familiar with this, and the fact that your healthcare team assumed that saying a 95% blockage was enough and not willing to educate you and develop this care plan, simply telling you you got to get back to the next doctor, not realizing that your doctor they're sending you to does not create the care plan that you need. Thankfully, you were able to find this cardiologist who went the extra mile. Tell us a little bit about what that care plan looked like. How does your life revamp after you get with this cardiologist who gets you and who actually wants to see you be well?
It started with, I want to know what your blood pressures are like. Because I would honestly say, I didn't take my blood pressure. Again, I thought I was good to go. So he was like, I need you to start giving me your blood pressures. My husband is
I know he in
actually
the background.
he is. He
He
is.
said, don't forget to say this.
Yeah, yes. Because he actually did want me to, make sure that I stated that we as women are diagnosed differently, just even on the heart aspect. But this cardiologist wanted me to take my blood pressures morning and afternoon.
Yes.
Because again, they gave me a whole crap load of medication that I didn't even know what I was taking. Actually, my husband, what's the medicine? What's the medicines they're giving you? Oh, this is for that. This is for this. So he actually was educating me as well.
I said,
So we
Dr.
started,
Hubby.
yes, Dr. Hubby. So they started me out with that, and he wanted to do his own testing on me. So he wanted to do an EKG on me. He wanted to do an echocardiogram on me. He wanted a whole family history, heart, diabetes. He wanted everything about me. He wanted to know everything about me. And honestly, that did go a long way. That really did. And he said, I most absolutely want to see you at cardiac rehab. And that entailed going 3 days a week. And I had to be there at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
But it really was a blessing in disguise. It really was. And unfortunately, I'm no longer with that cardiologist. And it was not because of him. It was because his hours and mine just didn't mesh. But I was able, through cardiac rehab, was able to find a doctor who actually is from the same state that I'm from.
New
We're
York.
both from New York. Yes, we're both from New York. And he's very familiar with some of the hospitals there. And he actually was able to have a regimen plan in place with my cardiologist in New York. And so, God forbid, if I'm in New York and something happens to me, my cardiologist, knows everything so far. He's been in contact with the cardiologist down here. So I have a network now that
Oh,
works for me.
that is beautiful. You know, wow. You we're going to talk about Dr. Hubby for a couple seconds here because, I have this saying where I say, we already have what we need. Whatever we need, we already have access to it, right? So in this scenario, all along, you had Dr. Hubby. Prior
Yes.
to this, official diagnoses. And throughout the process, you have an advocate, what they give you, what they prescribe you. Let's take a look at these medications. Let's dig a little deeper in this. You know, you had a cardiologist who didn't just focus on the incident, the heart attack, blood work. Let me see what's happening with your blood work. This cardiologist understands metabolic syndrome. And I'm going to say metabolic syndrome for y'all listening. Say that again, because that focus on your pressure alone was not enough. He wanted to check to see, he wanted some family history of diabetes, other conditions. And then kudos to the cardiologist for helping you to appreciate self measured monitoring, self
Yes.
monitoring for your blood pressure in the morning, in the evening. You said it. It is a silent killer for us as women because we're diagnosed differently with blood pressure.
Yes.
That
Yes.
once a year physical is not enough to determine if we are at risk. That one appointment, that physical, oh, how am I doing? It's slightly elevated, but not so much. But when we measure it out, so tell us, what was one of the challenges with measuring your blood pressure? Did you have any challenges trying to stick to the self-monitoring?
I did, because I want to say I wasn't even putting the cup on right. My husband had to show me. He's like, this is how you do it. There's a diagram here. Why are you not paying attention to it? And I'm like,
Because we
okay.
don't do that.
I'm like, I'm putting it on, I'm taking it. But he was like, no, this is how you take it. So I want to say that as much as I really did not want to listen to my husband, I think you're right. He was like the best advocate for me. He cared for me when I didn't even want to care for myself at a point, because I was so angry. I was angry with the world. I was angry with God. I'm like, why me? I'm doing what I think I'm supposed to do. How could this happen to me? Oh, but at the same time, I want to say I'm grateful to be here, because I think that's what it boils down to. I could have not have been here. And I have those moments even today where I say, God, thank you for allowing me to walk. Thank you for allowing me to get up. I wake up with a whole new different realm on life.
Mm,
I mean, I don't want to take it for granted. I said, thank you,
absolutely.
God. Thank you for allowing me to wake up this morning, because it wasn't something that I always said. I can be honest with you. I
Yeah.
didn't.
Yeah. We live in life, just
Yes,
going about the day. And then all of a sudden, my life has to change dramatically.
yes. And that's what I guess I look at. And when I talk about my husband, just to shed a little light, he said, I think it's your heart. And I said, don't put that on me. We're not even claiming that. I'm not putting that in the atmosphere. It's acid reflux. And I had the head motions and everything.
Everything. Was the finger twirling?
Yes,
Let me tell you
all of
something.
that. All when I had the energy to do it, yes, because I was busted.
Right. You
But yes, he said it. He called it. And that's when he finally said, like I said, stop going in there telling them what you believe it to be. And
mm,
moving forward, if I don't feel well, I'm going to let them diagnose me.
yeah,
I'm going to keep my mouth shut, other than to tell them what I feel my symptoms are.
absolutely. If nothing else comes from this conversation, and we're still not done yet, almost, I'm gonna let you go soon. But I it's not just one thing, so I can't say I can't even say don't forget this one thing, because I will tell you the first thing is this self-diagnosing and
Yes.
sharing too much. Let them
Yes.
earn that money.
Yes.
Let them do it. Know what we and mind you, what I gather from this is not saying don't be aware of what you've been experiencing. So you may have to guide them a little bit so that
Yes.
we are refusing to not get the treatment that we need for what we know is much more serious than they want to make it to be. But let them diagnose, let them do the work. And second, Lord, how many of us have been diagnosed with GERD? Can we start looking at that?
Yes. I'm hearing that again. We as women are so misdiagnosed. And when I did start sharing my story, that's the response I got back.
Yeah.
That's the response I got back from a lot of women. We're so misdiagnosed.
And prior to this, you were you were aiming to manage your blood pressure
Yes.
holistically,
Yes.
working out. Avoid the sodium, too much sodium, aiming to get this going. So your story continues to remind us of misdiagnoses, um, n- not being educated enough with our primary care physicians, right? If there's even one concern, a one time concern about my pressure, why is that not a constant conversation?
Right.
Why am I not monitoring it, or monitoring it being the recommendation, even at that point, if it's slightly elevated? How that could have um, prevented this. But you're a warrior, the warrior that you are. And since having the right advocates, having the right partners in your healthcare team from here to New York, because I'm telling y'all, she famous. No matter where she goes, she has her heart health team ready, right? So tell us, what has the new healthy routine, what has it been since then? What's a
Well, I
day in the
want to
life?
say, well, what I wanted to say is, my dog always keeps me active. So that in itself is oh wow, she just keeps me active and keeps me young. But since cardiac rehab, I can honestly say, I make sure that I do my 45 minutes here at home. I have a treadmill. I have a cycle and bike. I have an elliptical machine. And my husband just
Wow.
recently got me a rowing machine. So I have a little mini gym here, and it actually works out because I work from home and I don't want to get to the point where I'm not doing anything. It's called work-life balance for a reason. My manager,
Absolutely.
yeah, she instills that in us. Get up, go for a walk, change your setting, change your environment. So I'm trying to still incorporate all of these things that I learned, from cardiac rehab. And as a result, I'm running. I sometimes will walk, run. I just got finished, doing when I did my first race after this heart attack, I was scared as all get out. I was so scared. But I did a 5K. I did the Baltimore Women's Classic.
Whoop,
That
whoop,
was in
whoop, whoop.
June, yes. Even my cardiac rehab place, they were a little nervous. They was like, it might be too soon. And they was like, just walk, just walk. But when I got out there, I felt my body. I could tell that I was ready. And I was. I
Mm,
was. And when I finished, I mean, it was so exhilarating to see my pace, the time I finished. I mean, that was the fastest 5K I had done. I was so
wow.
happy. I was so happy. And then I was like, okay, I think I'm gonna sign up for another one. So I did. I signed up for a race in Philadelphia. And
Awesome.
yes, I started saying, okay, I have a to-do list. I no longer have a bucket list. Those don't
Hello.
exist. These are to-do lists. And on my to-do list was to do Run Disney. And
Oh,
so I said I'm treating myself to Disney for my birthday. And I did the half marathon, the 10K, and the 5K. And that was in November for my birthday. That was the greatest gift I could give to myself.
that's
The
the yeah,
greatest gift.
let me tell you, I'm almost speechless right here because I'm a health coach and I have not done a 5K just yet.
It's
I'm
okay. It's
inspired all the way. No, no, this my to-do list. Oh yes. It's on. I'm gonna wait till late summer. But it's on. Congratulations.
thank you.
And
Thank you.
cardiac rehab, if you could just define it for our listeners, what was so we know you're continuing with your physical activity, which is similar to what they recommend in cardiac rehab. But if you
Yes.
could just give us a sentence or two, what is cardiac rehab?
Cardiac rehab is for anyone who's had any kind of heart related issue. And what they do is they monitor you while you work out. So they'll connect like a Holter monitor to you and monitor you while you work out. And it's typically in a hospital setting. God forbid something were to happen to you while they're monitoring you. So what it entailed was, at least doing 45 minutes, but they also educated me. They educated me on how to read a label, what to choose, this or that, what not to choose, this or that. We had quizzes, there's times where they would say something like, okay, you're in a restaurant. This is your menu. What would
What
you
would you
choose?
choose? Yes.
Yeah, what would you choose? And, we would give them, the options of what we would choose. And they would suggest, well, you might want to choose this, or you might want to choose that, or you might not want to have this on there. Or, you might want to squeeze lemon on your salad as opposed to having blue cheese. So they educated us so much from dietary to, how we should stand on the treadmill and walk with our hands and, just things like that.
Motion.
It
Yes.
was really really important to go. And I can honestly say I'm glad that cardiologist said, I'll never forget it. Certain things just resonate with me now. You most absolutely have to go to cardiac rehab. You most absolutely. Not, oh, you run, you work out, you should be fine. I think about the one who said that and the one who said you most absolutely have to go. So I had two cardiologists in my ear saying two different things.
How about that?
Mm-hmm.
And one knowing you had a 95% blockage,
I
saying
want to say they
no.
both
Mm,
knew, just one didn't want to tell me because he didn't take me seriously when I told him I wasn't feeling well. Oh, it's you
exactly.
work out, it's third.
And as the authority in cardiology, we're believing him,
Yes.
right? And that
Yes.
is the scary part. That's the scary part. So not only are we, especially Black women, misdiagnosed, underdiagnosed, at a higher risk, could another risk factor be those who we put our health in the hands of? That there's
Mm.
a level of responsibility there. that for whatever reason um, should be added to that list of what puts us at a higher risk. When we experience what Perisa had to experience, these symptoms related to a diagnosis, and someone in a position of authority telling her, "Hey, you're going to be fine. You're borderline in death, but guess what? You're going to be fine." So, what I would love to do at this time, moving forward, I'll tell you that kudos to you with the races, 5K races. You said, "I'm going to Disney. This is what I'm going to do." You made it happen. I see the fork and the knife in the background, so I know you're a foodie and you enjoy your foods. But you are enjoying them in a new, in a new light, and just embracing this. I want to thank you for your transparency as well, because there's no fluff in this conversation. There was a time where you were angry,
Yes.
mad, uh,
Yes.
refusing to believe that this could even be your situation. So
Yes.
that reminds us as women, when our life change, especially in this way, is similar to a stage of grief,
Yes.
because one part of our life, the way we used to live, fizzles out and a new one takes shape. And those same stages in a grief process when we lose a loved one is the same when our life changes. But the beauty in what you've been able to do, one, gotta shout you out and keep emphasizing the fact that prior to this heart attack, you were working on you. You were
Yes.
mindful about your food. You were, everybody, when you said, "Guess what? I suffered a heart attack," they were surprised, because you were the picture of health.
Yes.
If it was not for that, we can only imagine what how much harder you would have to work to get to a point where you're running a 5K and Disney World after a heart attack. So the message, ladies, what you do now by putting a focus on your health, I call it's like the bank account. People say wealthy. I spell wealthy differently. I spell wealthy with an H. It's WHEALTHY. Can we be physically prosperous, right? Can we begin to look at our bodies? Forget the handbag.
Exactly.
Forget the $500 bundles, right? I mean, seriously, the investment in our health, and that's what you did. You may not have even realized that you were investing in your health, so that when a life event occurred, you could pull from those resources,
That's
right?
good.
It's the
Good.
same, right? Um, what happens if we are not stacking up that health bank and health hits? Woo, what in the world?
Mhm. That's good. Good right there.
Oh my goodness, you were saving up for the unexpected.
That uncloudy day.
Hello. And so in the midst of that moment where life seemed unfair, the support that's in place and around you helps to take you right back to a place of gratitude. Do you say that?
I'm very grateful. I'm humble and grateful.
Mm.
By his grace and mercy, I'm
Yeah,
still
I'm telling you. And not just standing, because you're running 5Ks. I haven't run one yet. That's beast mode. We have to give you props for this one. I have a feeling this particular podcast is going to break my download record, and I hope that it does. We're having this conversation, period. But at the end of the day, the conversation is going to continue because we have to keep this in the forefront. But I would love for you, as the beautiful woman thriving in this next phase of life, what advice would you give a woman listening to this podcast? What would you tell her?
I would start by saying self-care. I mean, we as women, we tend to do everything so much for everybody that we tend to lack any type of knowledge for ourselves, if that makes sense. I know that
it does.
We care about so many other people, I want to say. And so again, for me, I really did not pay attention to the diagnosis that, my husband was saying to me, because I'm like, I'm not too concerned about it. This is acid reflux. Let me keep moving on with my life. But I want to say, just reflecting on how I should be looking at me and caring about me. And once I care about me, then I can care about others. And we tend to not. And so I guess I'll say, ladies, it starts with you. You got to see about you before you can see about anyone else.
That's on point. Caring for everybody else does not happen if you're not there.
Exactly. And we're notorious as African American women. We're notorious for seeing about everybody else. And we care about ourselves last.
All day. It's, if you can remember the period between the acid reflux symptoms, that day you went on that walk and was experiencing these symptoms at their height, to the time where this new cardiologist kicks in and tells you exactly what has happened. What's the time frame between that?
We went from November to the end of January. Yes.
You experienced a heart attack in November. Symptoms that you did not know was this heart attack. You're walking your dog having a heart attack.
Yes.
It is not officially diagnosed until January.
Yes. I got my stent on February 8th. Some dates you'll never forget.
Ever.
That's one of them.
Ever. Wow.
Yeah.
February 8th. This makes year 2.
1 year.
1.
Yeah, this is
I
year
have
1.
totally blanked 23. That's right, because February 2023, we had our heart health event, and literally your heart attack, your stent happened, I want to say 2 weeks prior to our 2 or 3 weeks prior to our event.
Yes, because I remember I said, I'm going to have to start cardiac rehab.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yes.
Yep. And then we met at the Baltimore Wellness event.
Then we turned around and we were at the Be More Healthy
I started
Expo.
self-caring for me.
Yes. And eating those sweet peppers.
Yes. I had some yesterday. For Super Bowl, I had to have a whole different regimen. And I'm not saying that you can't have this, you can't have that, but it's called moderation.
Absolutely.
I had a piece of chocolate. My husband treated me to Hershey for our anniversary.
Yeah.
I most absolutely had a hamburger that had chocolate infused in it.
Let me tell you, it's called motivation, not deprivation.
Yes.
It's lifestyle changes for a reason, right? If this is a lifestyle change, that means I'm tweaking my current lifestyle. I'm not starting all over. I'm not going so far beyond where I am that I don't even recognize me. I'm making lifestyle changes. I'm making hacks. I'm doing a couple of tweaks. Well, this has been inspiring, enlightening. I hope the listeners hear the transparency, the genuineness. If you struggle to believe that you are going to save lives with your story, eliminate that struggle. Because the the beauty of this, because we never downplay these events. So grateful you're here. So thankful you have the support system in place. There's someone else out there with GERD.
Yes.
There's someone else out there with a physician or a cardiologist that's not taking them seriously. There's someone out there with elevated blood pressure, not knowing what to do with it. And then there may even be another beautiful out there that has experienced a heart attack, who's trying to figure out how to get her life back on track with a serious intention on self-care that includes caring for every aspect of her health, getting that physical activity in, um, getting with a program that's going to help her to do well in terms of her food, diet, sleep. I'll say eating routine because I want to say diet. And that is what we do. So I want to thank you for your time. Ladies, please rewind this, listen to it over and over and over again. The best advice was given. Perisa said, you got to self-care. Pause, please. Pause. We can't keep running like this. We are number one. Heart disease is the number one killer in Maryland, nationally, globally. And women are topping the charts of it. In most cases, we are unaware that we are even at risk. So Perisa, again, we thank you. We're sending out our beautifully well hugs and love.
Receiving it.
You are living beautifully well. And we thank you for joining us. We know we'll see you Saturday. So
Yes,
important
ma'am.
to see you Saturday. We cannot wait to see you. So please enjoy this evening. Thank you for hopping on with us. And we appreciate all you do.
Me.
And keep up the health and wealth.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.